Alright, we back once again. Another book I read. Lord of Light by Roger Zelazny. Alright, I heard about this book. It's like one of the legendary sci-fi classics. This guy, he also had another series, like a 10-book series called The Amber Chronicles, where it's kind of like a fantasy thing, sword and magic and stuff, where they actually jump through different dimensions and stuff, go back in time, da da da. I want to read that, but it's 10 books long, so it might be a little while. But right now we're doing Lord of Light. I wanted to try to get in different sci-fi classics because I really like, watching sci-fi movies. So I decided to try to read a lot of the classics that they're based on. I really like Blade Runner, and that's called Do Androids Dream of Electric Sleep by Philip K. Dick. I'll get to that probably one day. Probably do a movie and book comparison, but right now we're doing this. And yeah, this guy is very, very good. I see why this won Nebula Awards and Locus and all the big science fiction literature awards and stuff. And he totally deserved it. Everything I read about it online is they're praising him and stuff. We'll get to that a little bit. I have a little bit different opinion about it than other people. But yeah, starting off, I could also talk about Octavia Butler. I've actually read most of her stuff, not all of it. I read everything except for Kindred all the way through, but I'm gonna get to that. Even read her short stories, and I've read all of her essays. I could do a whole series on that, but I'll get to that. I have to reread that stuff because that was big. But let's get into it, okay? All right. So yes. Oh, and also it was published in the 1960s and stuff. So 1967. So he's been around for a long time. I think he died around 2015, 2016. So, but I'm gonna get into it and how excellent this book was, because I really like the premise, and it's just one of those premises that you combine things and it just, let me get into it and I'll explain. Okay. Basically, the gist of the novel, basically it's about the overthrow of a government at a space colony. Right? Pretty simple. But the way Zelazny writes it, he doesn't write it in a simple way. A lot of people would think that you just have some people come, boom, humans, space colony, wherever, Octoprime, wherever, and then you just have a shootout. Doesn't happen that way. Happens totally different. And that's the reason why I loved it, because of the premise. The premise is the same old political story, but told in a different way. And that's all you can really do. All you can do is change the premises and stuff and come up with something new. Same old story, but just in a different bag. And most stories are told, whether it's TV, books, film, comic books, whatever, it's told. The premise is the same. You know what I'm saying? Just a variation and stuff. But this is totally, not too many people have copied his premise. I wish more people would copy his premise or try different premises, because he's combining stuff and coming up with something. That's why I like sci-fi, because they tell the same old stories, but they do it, the premise is different and stuff. That's why I really want to get into, that's why I like science fiction movies and really try to get into different, something different. It's kind of like how the Matrix blew everything away. Told the exact same thing. It's about people being oppressed and used, and basically there was a rebellion and stuff, but it's a different premise and stuff. That's the reason why the Matrix was so good, and it was science fiction. It was basically cyberpunk and stuff. I really want to get into that. I really want to get into William Gibson, but I've tried reading, I've listened to, his book. I'm sorry, I'm getting a brain fart, but his book. His book that he wrote, but his writing style is so but this guy's writing style attractive. But I'll get to William Gibson probably one day and stuff. I've read the audiobook of his famous cyberpunk book, but hey, it was, I've tried starting it like 2, 3 times, but his writing style, he's very overrated. You know, I mean, like his premise is good, but I'll get into that another day. All right, so basically, like I said, it's basically, you know, a political overthrow of the government on a space colony, right? But reading the book, you won't know that. All right, so basically, once again, reading from stuff, so I won't forget anything. Basically, the story takes place on a colonized planet, right? They don't say what the colonized planet is. You know, they arrive on a ship called the Star of India. Now, that's very, very important. The Star of India, right? The shipmates called the First, right? These are people who arrived. They were already born on the ship. They also have like sperm and ovum collected, and they use that to germinate people and create like new people to colonize the planet. But like the first shipmates that are already born, living and stuff, they're called the First. Okay, but I'll get into that, right? These shipmates called the First use their advantage of being the first, right? Arrivals and the technology that they have to make themselves the upper class, right? First, they subdue and imprison the indigenous species, right, of the planet below ground and label them demons. They're not demons at all. They're no supernatural beings. They're just beings. When they arrive there, they're the indigenous beings of the planet, and they, you know, use their technology, defeated them, cleared the planet of them, and put them in cells and chambers and imprison them underground, right? And then occasionally a demon may, indigenous people, species of the planet may get out, and when they do, they call them demons, okay? But that plays into where they're going, right? Then they use their technology to modify their bodies, to transfer the consciousness to another clone body after death, right? So they use that to basically prolong their lives and stuff. They don't really go into the technology of how they're able to save a person's conscious and transfer it and stuff to the new clone body and stuff, but it doesn't really matter. You don't have to go up into that. That's just how they stay alive forever. They control, and then with this, the First, they control who gets reborn and like what body. Is it a human body? Is it an animal body? Is it insect, etc., right? They set themselves up as Hindu gods. Notice the name of Star of India, right? So the First, they're gods, okay? They get these superhuman bodies, like a regular human, a normal human can't really get into a fight with them. They just have powers and stuff. So basically with these advances of technology, they set themselves as Hindu gods, and they took that from the Star of David. So they took the Hindu pantheon, because remember, the Hindu gods, it's an endless, I believe like someone counted it up and there's like 33 million gods in Hinduism. So they can take their pick, right? The new generations of people are reborn as regular people or animals based on if they are disobedient and irreverent towards the God. So the people that were born after, if they are obedient and reverent to the gods, because they have temples all over the place, and they're supposed to come, and regular Hinduism, you basically give like a sacrifice and say your prayers and stuff, but here you have a thing set up where they have to give their money, and they give their money in slots at every Hindu temple and stuff. And if you don't basically, pray to them and give this money in these slots, and they can count with the technology, like who's given, how many times they gave, how much they gave and stuff. They look down upon that, and then they'll make you into like a beggar or like a mentally retarded or handicapped, or to make you into an animal or an insect and stuff. But if you're reverent and you praise the gods and stuff, and you give a lot of money and stuff, you'll be born in a higher caste. Because don't forget, Hinduism has a caste system, and you'll be born up to a higher caste and stuff. And if you do this a certain amount of lifetimes, then they'll make you into like a demigod or something. You know what I'm saying? So yeah. Also, there's a thing I have to say about that. There's also a realm. It's kind of like purgatory, but kind of is. And they're basically there's a field, electromagnetic field around the planet, and they'll put your consciousness up in there and stuff. Depending on, like, they can use this as a place of exile and stuff of the First that are bad, that don't go along, or they'll put it, and this is like bliss and stuff, or heaven and stuff, where it's like basically they're getting constantly pumped with acid and stuff to make them get this good feeling and stuff. And they'll do that, and then if, like, say, like a first is messed up, they'll destroy them and crush their consciousness, and then they will replace with a human that had been obedient and stuff. So they kind of use it as a purgatory for a first that have been disobedient and not going along with the thing. But then humans that were not a first, that was born on the planet and stuff, if they consistently show obedience and stuff and pay dues and stuff to the gods and stuff, they'll be raised to like the lower gods and stuff, and they can move on up. So, just to let y'all know a little bit how a background of the society and stuff, you know what I'm saying? So pretty much they use religion, the Hindu religion, as a form of control to keep themselves on top. But I'll get into that a little bit later. Basically, the main character, right, is a guy named Sam. Now that's short for Mahasamatan. Sorry, my Sanskrit isn't so good, but he's called Sam, and he's a first who, at first, for a couple of centuries, they don't really. That's another thing. They don't say what year this is. According to Earth years, and then they don't say how many planet years or Earth years this has been going on. So all I can really tell, it's been going on for centuries and stuff. Maybe a millennium or two. Don't really know. He doesn't really say, but he just hints at it. But basically, for the first few centuries, Sam, he goes along. He's the first. He goes along with the program, right? But then has a change of mind and becomes a part of the accelerationist faction. Now, the accelerationist faction are people that are first, right? Now, also another thing, they do not allow the people on the planet to advance technologically. When they set this up, they put them in technologically in the Middle Ages and stuff. And anytime, there's been a couple times where people have reinvented technology on their own, and when they do that, they repress it. They take the person, kill them off, take the technology, and destroy it and stuff. Like, give an example, they talk about like a couple times the printing press has been reinvented like 3 times. They destroyed it. Also, someone also came up with, they reinvented steam power and stuff. They destroyed that. You know what I'm saying? Stuff like that. They do everything they can to keep them at the medieval level of technology. Anytime they try to advance, they basically destroy it. But the accelerationists, they believe that, this is not fair, that the people on the planet should be given the exact same technology that the first have, okay? And also the first have also, while they've been there, they've also accelerated the technology with them. So the first technology is not the same technology when they first got there. It has advanced also. You know what I'm saying? But of course, they haven't blocked themselves. And accelerationists believe, hey, take this technology, the height of technology we're at, the people on the planet, they should have it first. They should be doing that. And also, not only does he believe that, is he a faction of the accelerationists, but he also believes that the whole thing about godship of the first should be abolished. He's like, this is not right. Give them technology and abolish godhood. You're not above people. We're all human here. This whole godhood thing is an illusion, right? So of course, hey, he makes enemies. All right. So get it more like to the plot. Sam in his rebellion becomes Siddhartha Gautama of Buddhism. Yeah, so that's where that's where he goes, because Buddhism was formed in opposition to Hinduism. You know what I'm saying? There was like different aesthetic movements and stuff in India. Buddhism and Jainism was 2 of them that survived, but there's like tons of them and stuff, and there's a circle that they go around and stuff. So the same way Buddhism was founded to oppose Hinduism, Sam goes and decides to form Buddhism to oppose the Hinduism, aka the first. So he's basically using religion is used, Hinduism religion is used to oppress the people, and Buddhism is used to free the people. Okay? So that's kind of that, right? This conflict, basically goes on for centuries, probably millennia. Don't know. He really doesn't. Sam loses and then gets reincarnated and stuff. Sometimes as a dog, sometimes he's exiled in that part, the electromagnetic barrier in the planet. You know what I'm saying? Then he's eventually brought back by his allies and stuff and reincarnated. A lot of times, sometimes as a regular person, sometimes as a demigod, sometimes as a god. It changes, but he's been reincarnated, right? Along the way, various people assume the rule of Brahman. Now, in Hinduism, Brahman is the high god. So, just to let you know, even though there's 33 million gods, he's the high god, right? And basically, whoever the first in charge becomes Brahman. So when I say Brahman, that means that's the first who's the high god, right? And basically, the allies shift. Like, what's his name? To give an example, I mean, the gods, there's factions. Some gods, Hindu gods, join in with Sam, some don't. Like there's the I believe his name is Shiva. He's the god of death. Like the god of death is against Sam, then he joins him, then he goes back to the high gods, then he joins him again, and goes back and forth till basically at the end and stuff. So there's tons of alliances. There's tons of firsts who are not gods. They reincarnate to regular people, and some join with the god, some joins with Sam. There's one character, he becomes a monkey. He's like basically literally a talking monkey and stuff. And he's like a demigod. And, by the end of the thing, he takes a human body, but he basically sticks with Sam. He's like pretty much the only person that sticks with Sam throughout the centuries, throughout the different reincarnations. Because he believes, he's an accelerationist, he believes, and also he chooses to be the monkey demigod because as a demigod and as a monkey, no one really pays attention to him. It's basically security and stuff. But then once the war is over and he becomes a regular human, lives out a regular human life. But that just is, I'm not going to get into different, factions and stuff. Okay, so basically, the turning point comes when Sam goes down into the planet and he frees the indigenous populations, aka the demons, right? And they make a thing. It's like, hey, I free you, we'll fight against the gods and stuff, and basically humans and indigenous species on the planet will live together. They say deal, right? Also, he basically gets the help of a guy called Nerti, also called Nerki the Black, because he wears black, but in his real name is Renfro. He was basically the Christian chaplain on the Star of India ship, and he's a first, right? But he's a zealot towards Christian. He believes, hey, we shouldn't be doing this Hinduism, we shouldn't be doing Buddhism, we shouldn't do Judaism, Islam, nothing. We should be doing Christianity. That's the only thing we need to do. We need to exterminate all the rest of these religions and go. So basically, Sam doesn't really believe in this. He believes people should follow whatever they want to, but he needs allies. So politics makes strange bedfellows, right? And, Nerti the Black / Renfro, he's in charge of an army of zombies. Yeah, that's really weird. You would think that a person that's Christian wouldn't revive dead people, and use them and stuff, because that sounds like some voodoo stuff. But like I said, politics makes strange bedfellows, and this is, like I say, this is science fiction. They use new premises, so that's kind of weird. But hey, eventually Sam and the demons and Renfro, they basically win. You know what I'm saying? There's battles back and forth and stuff, but it's so many. The tides change. Sometimes he wins a battle. I'm not really going to go into that. But basically, he wins the whole thing. He abolishes godhood. You know what I'm saying? And then all of the firsts that were strictly, we're just going to be gods, they destroy the conscious. They don't say how, if it's like a chip or a machine, but they just destroy them and get rid of them and stuff. Bang. And then he spreads technology to all the commoners and stuff. So they get their accelerations thing. He and his various allies, they basically go off to live regular lives. You know, like the monkey god, like I said, he gets a human body, he gets a young body. Krishna, the god of death, it turns out, because he was all over the place, because he would change like a drop of a hat. Turns out that he had a child as a god with a regular woman and stuff, and the child is mentally handicapped. So he decides to raise his little girl and stuff, you know, and without the mother and stuff. Apparently, it doesn't really say what happened to the mother, but he decides to go do that. And then Sam, you know, he basically decides to become like a regular person, and then he goes off and stuff and becomes basically a hermit and stuff. And then with all that, of course, you know, the humans, they invent folklore about him and God of, you know, Krishna and all the people in the war and stuff. But they basically go on and, you know, do their thing. You know, I ain't gonna lie. There's so many things that happened in this book that were like so good. Like Krishna, right? One of the things that kept him with the gods was the fact that one of the people that become a Brahmin was a female and stuff. You know, you have people that were female on the ship become male gods, and males become female gods and stuff. It's crazy, right? Well, the female that he fell in love with when he first got there, right? Because Krishna was actually 17 years old when they landed. Okay? He was a kid, right? But he was like this tech whiz. He's one of the main people of the gods that keeps advancing their technology and stuff. You know, so he's valuable, but he didn't experiment and exploded right away and stuff. And so they had to give him a new clone body and stuff. So he's like, he kind of started off with his screwing up some type of technology. You know, and he also he was able to transfer, because usually they have to physically transfer the conscious to people, but he's so good at technology, he put a antenna, some new wave antenna in his head, where he was able to, if he loses one of the battles, because the battles went back and forth, if he loses one of the battles, he was able to transfer his consciousness to a clone body waiting. You know what I'm saying? A lot of the story evolved around him. He kept the fight going live. Then also, one of the women that he fell in love with early, he was 17, I believe she was like mid-30s. He fell in love with her, always had a thing for her. He was kind of a simp waiting around for her. When the last final battle came, the woman he fell in love with, she became Brahma. She became the leader. Okay, and she was offered this. She was not demanded this, and she didn't turn it down. And at the time, he was with Sam, so she actually left him to go be, you know, the leader and stuff. So he ends up having to kill her. It's crazy, you know. It's so crazy and stuff, you know. And he's basically the strong man because he's God of death, so he can defeat everybody. It's so tripped out because people in this, they become gods and actually believe their own bullshit. Like at one time, Sam, because in the temple, the head priest, they have this communication, just like we have now with smartphones, you can see people and stuff. They have a communication with the gods. And then the head priest at the head temple has direct communication with Brahman. Whoever Brahman this priest talks to, and with one of the ongoing factions, he basically bribes the priest, says, let me talk to Brahma, I'll make it worth your while, here's some money. He gets it to him. He speaks to Brahma. While he's talking to Brahma, now Brahma is a woman, and I did not know this at first. Because they have Brahma up because their heaven is the North Pole of the planet, right? And he's up there with a harem and stuff, had this old thing, and he's basically sitting around like, why is my harem not trying to have sex with me and blah blah blah. I don't realize that because this is not a dude, even though it's a dude's body, it's a female brain. She's thinking they should come to her, but it's like, no, you're a dude, you need to go to them. And then she's complaining about the fact that servants aren't coming and serving her and stuff. But no, you're a dude, you're supposed to command them. You command your, hey, you harem, come over here, have sex with me. You servant, come over here, fill my wine in a glass. I didn't really notice the problem with that until she was talking to Sam, who's bribed the priest and was talking on a thing like this now. And he's talking to her and he's trying to make a deal to come up there, and they're making a deal where he can come up there. He wants to be one of the high gods, but she's like, no, you're going to be like a low god and stuff. And she's making up all these excuses, and he's talking to her, and he realized who it is, and he just says to her, Janelle? And she goes, I'm Brahmin. What are you talking about, this Janelle? Respect me, and da-da-da-da this. And he's like, Janelle, it's Sam. I was the first, just like you, remember? You were in department whatever, da-da-da, and I was down the way from you. Remember, it's me, Sam. So, that's old, and that's the past, and I'm Brahma now, and give me my respect. It is so funny, because shit like that happens all the time. It happens about 4 or 5 more times in there. A lot of first, they're wandering around, they'll come across a person and stuff, a god or like a regular person, and they'll be like, hey, ain't you Skip or Sarah or da-da-da? And they'll be like, it really shows the hubris and arrogance of people, how artificial people's confidence is. You know, you give them a little bit of power and all of a sudden they want to forget where they came from. But as it shows, even when you have these artificial barriers and stuff and try to raise yourself up, there's always somewhere to basically bring you down to reality, who remembers you and stuff, remembers when you was just like everybody else and stuff. That's another thing that just, shocked the shit out. You know what I mean? It just really showed humans and stuff. That's why I like this book, because even though we are talking about people who set themselves up as God, they're only gods because of technology, and they hoard the technology and hold it secrecy and private. If they didn't have that technology, they would be walking around like everyone else. Or if everyone else had the same technology, they would be walking around like everyone else and stuff. And that's why I like this book, because it basically, through different premises and stuff, it shows people being all too human. The humanness comes out. And also when I was doing research into this, I was trying to find different things, and so of course I went on YouTube and I saw a lot of different reviews for it. I kind of didn't like the review. I have a totally different, everybody for some reason tried to paint this as a difficult book to read, but it was easy as hell for me. Like they say, like one thing, like a lot of the gods, they have like anywhere from 7 to 10 names. Like Sam, he has, I don't know how many, I'm not even gonna repeat them. Krishna, he has different names, names and titles that they go by. It can be a little bit hard, but he does enough where he's repetitive with the names and stuff, and he'll say they were named this, then they were named that, so you know exactly who he's talking to when he switches up the names and titles and stuff. So that really didn't really bother me at all. I knew exactly who he was talking about. There was only so many people that were main characters and stuff, so I don't really understand that. And then 2, everyone said that this was a tricky book. I mean, like, yeah, you can look at it and see, you see Buddha up there on the Lotus platform and stuff, and he's made of gold, and as you can see, there's like electronic gears going through him and stuff. No, it really wasn't. And then I wish I had brought up a thing, of the original cover, because it's like one of those psychedelic things and stuff where it's like purple and pink and stuff, and it's like going off, and a lot of people says that this is a psychedelic reading book that is rendered in psychedelic waves. I don't think that. It was pretty much straightforward. I mean, I understood what was happening. I've read books that have the psychedelic style to them, And they're not really that hard if you read like a second time or something, or they just really, a lot of times they'll try to use references from different cultures and stuff and combine them together and make it confusing. But if you have read a lot, you'll know these references. But he doesn't really do that. He sticks with Hinduism. True, if you're, I've read stuff on Buddhism, Hinduism, and a lot of other religions, so I kind of knew the stuff. But all you have to do is like do a quick search in Wikipedia or on the internet, and you'll find out what the hell they're talking about. And stuff. And even a lot of that, they don't have a lot of that. They'll just use regular old American English. So it was not hard for me to keep up with what the hell was going on. You know what I'm saying? Even if you're not familiar with Buddhism and Hinduism and other Indian religions, you can still, a quick Google search will, yeah. So don't let what they say intimidate you. It's a real easy read, okay? If I had read this like say 20 years ago, I would still be able to follow the story. So I don't agree with that. It was pretty much there. You know, now honestly, I have to be honest with you because I've read a lot of Hindu and Buddhist stuff. You know, because I'm just curious like that. I've read a lot of philosophy and religion. So I do notice that he stole the style of the religious texts of Hinduism and Buddhism. The way when you read these different Hindu and Buddhist texts, the style that he writes with that and stuff, so it can sound kind of like you're reading the Bible and stuff. And then sometimes he does use, you know, like the King James Version biblical references, like language and stuff. But you can still read it. So I don't really, you know, maybe just me because I'm well read and stuff, and I'm curious about, you know, Hinduism, Buddhism, and other religions and stuff in other places, but trust me, it's an easy read. It does not get complex. It's very much straightforward and stuff. So I don't really know. It's not a hard read. You don't need to be high to understand it. You don't need to be familiar with Hinduism or Buddhism and stuff, or Indian philosophy. It's an easy read. You know what I'm saying? So yeah. Well, let me get to my kind of opinion. You know, at the end of the day, this story reminds me of like political stories, you know, about those campaign races and stuff. You know, those books that, you know, detail all the political campaigns, presidential campaigns, mayoral, governorship campaigns. That's what it reminds me of. It doesn't really come off as a ancient myth or ancient folklore, ancient religious epic and stuff to me. You know, it seems that way because it's presented that way. That's the reason why I like it, because it's presented differently. But at the end of the day, underneath all the bells and whistles, this is a story about politics and basically factions fighting to see who's in control. You know, it shows the machinations of power. It also shows the personal relationships, what I've talked about earlier, like love affairs, family, backstabbing, alliances, and betrayals that happen among the elite. Basically, this was a fight amongst the elite. When you look at all the different political infighting and civil wars and stuff that happens, and revolts and stuff, basically it's one faction of the elite fighting another faction of the elite. And that's all that really is. It was just the first fighting with the first and them getting allies amongst other factions in the society. Also, the ideology they invent to justify their leadership and the status quo, right? The use of religion as a justification, a tool of power, is also on display. You know, basically, hey, they use technology, they use religion, they come up with they already have religion, but then they come up with the ideology after that, like, hey, you can't give them technology, they'll just mess it up, and da-da-da. You know, but the acceleration side, well, no, you need to all be on the same level. You know, so you have an ideology to justify what they did, and then you have the accelerations to oppose that ideology. You know, in the end, Sam was no hero. Okay, he was not. He just happened to be a first and stuff. He just had principles and lived by them, even if they cost him status and gave him a heartache with the wars he fought. Because a lot of, as you're reading the book, you kind of get Sam's sadness that, you know, hey, why can't we all get along? But he stays the course. You know, and all of the different, times that he loses and they kill him, and he gets exiled out into the one of the outer layers, electromagnetic sphere layers of the planet and stuff. He keeps going. It doesn't bother him. Even when he, outs Janelle as, Brahma, he's not surprised and stuff. And he'll put that all behind him. He basically, when he gets to the indigenous population, that's the demons, he allays their thing. It's like, yeah, we were wrong. Because he was actually one of the people that imprisoned him and stuff. Like I said, he went along with it. But he's like, yes, you were wrong. We're going to make it right. And then even with the Nerti, the black, a.k.a. Renfro, the Christian chaplain piece, he doesn't like him, but he puts that aside and stuff. It's like, yo, we got to do this for justice. So he's like one of the people that throughout the craziness, he keeps his head on tight. But then after when it's done, instead of him just replacing the people, he goes off and it's kind of like Cincinnatus with the Romans and stuff. Remember, there was a war going on and they called him from the cabbage farm. He came, led the troops and fought the war and defeated the enemy, restored stability, then went back to his cabbage farm. He kind of reminds me of that, of Cincinnatus and stuff with the Romans and stuff. So basically in the end, even though the first set themselves up as gods, they were all too human. They were all too human. And that kind of parallels how it goes in society, because basically we have people, politicians are basically narcissists. They are. Like they say, politics is Hollywood for ugly people, and let's be real. Entertainers, performing artists, athletes, and politicians, they're all narcissists. They're all narcissists. All right. And, this shows the narcissism of politicians. You know what I'm saying? And how basically it's, when you get narcissists, they basically, how can I say, blow up their ego and stuff. But a lot of times, man, when you're around a narcissist, you really figure out that narcissists, that they blow up their ego because, a lot of times they have low self-esteem, So if they're good with one thing, which is what happens with like performer artists, let's say an actor, they may be good acting, they can act their ass off, but then you look at the rest of their life, it's shit. Like a lot of those actors and stuff that are really popular up in Hollywood, they get, over their lifetime, they get divorced like 5-6 times, along with having like 20-30 boyfriends and girlfriends. You know what I'm saying? A lot of times they go broke because they can't, just like a lot of people notice how athletes go broke like 3 to 4 years after their career ends. Same thing happens with, artists. They go broke too. How many times you hear about them filing for bankruptcy? And also you get politicians that do the exact same thing. You know what I'm saying? A lot of times they'll be in a marriage that really isn't a marriage at all and stuff. And eventually when they do get divorced, all of a sudden this craziness comes out about them and stuff. Then a lot of times, politicians, they use their political connections to enrich themselves. How many politicians after they have like a long career of politics are poor? A lot of them are rich because they're using their stuff, because they're also irresponsible with their money, just like actors, just like athletes. But of course, actors and politicians can hide the fact that they go broke, because unlike athletes, they keep making money. You know what I'm saying? Also, same thing, a lot of people, when they meet up with these people, they talk about who knew them and stuff. They talk bad about them, how they were assholes, and they think that they're better than everybody else and stuff. You know what I'm saying? And when you get elites, you know what I'm saying? That comes out because they're up there at the top. All the first just happened to be born when the ship landed. And they took advantage. They artificially made themselves elites instead of just the next generations as they grew them and stuff. Instead of just letting them do their thing and be amongst them, they put themselves up with this artificial, they took advantage of the fact that they were the first, that they were alive. They took advantage of technology, and they used religion. They co-opted religion to justify. And then even amongst themselves, they came up with a thing like, no, you can't give them technology past the Middle Ages because they'll just screw it up. And even with people like the accelerations who saw that's crap, that's garbage. We need to give them technology they're just like us. They're human just like us. We're not gods. Okay, we're only up top because of technology, and we were first. They still were like, no, you can't do that because of this and that, and if you still didn't, they punished you. They either destroyed your consciousness and didn't let you get reborn, or they had you reborn as like a insect or something, or they just outcast you into the, one of the layers of the atmosphere. And which really shows that, hey, they were not gods at all. They were not above being human. Okay? If anything, they were all too human, and they were highly flawed. Highly flawed. And then once they got challenged, once Sam challenged them and was like, hey, you got to stop this. He got the indigenous population of the planet that they conquered together. He got Renfro and got the zombie army. Of course, he had a couple humans up in there too. With populations and stuff. And they went at it and got some of the gods. And as you saw, when you read it for yourself, annihilated them. And then destroyed them, and then went back to being what they are. Yeah. That's about the story. Basically, this book, this basically justified my interest in trying to read more science fiction because, like I said, the premise, it's the same old story, but the premise is excellent. And it really shows, I really like how it shows the hypocrisy of humanity and how we are really flawed, and how basically, that's why I'm kind of not really up into organized religion, because a lot of religion, it's basically arbitrary, just like they're being elites and gods is arbitrary. A lot of religion is arbitrary, and it's used to pretty much justify the status quo and then commit a lot of crimes. I know I'm going to lose a lot of people by saying that, criticizing religion, but this basically showed the premise showed the dark side of religion, but like to an extreme and stuff. A lot of people can't see it in our setting right here, right now, but if you put it in a different premise and different context and setting, you'll see. And this can happen. This can happen. We've had that. We've had people, set themselves up as God. Like, they found a tribe in, I believe, somewhere in one of the Papua New Guinea islands after World War II. A guy came there. I believe his name was John Smith. He came in a plane, dropped a low bunch of supplies, and left. And they've been worshiping him ever since. They even went and constructed out of the wood there imitation planes on the runway where he landed. They keep the runway clear, and they worship him just because he brought them supplies, modern day supplies. And people still, even though what I've read about it, their technology has advanced since then, and they get goods on their own, so they don't have to really wait for anyone. Technology there is proved on this Papua New Guinea island. They still worship him. This guy, if he wanted to come back, he could have came back and ruled as a fucking god. If he wanted to. People are that gullible. People, if it was worldwide news, some white man would have came back and said, oh, I'm John Smith, I'm your God, and would have done it. There's also another thing where the Rastafarians, with Haile Selassie, they believed that he was the new coming of God. There's a story that when he visited Jamaica in the 1960s, that he had a meeting with the Rastafarians, and that he said, yes, I am the savior, I am the God, and stuff. But now is not the time to come back to Ethiopia. You all need to stay here in Jamaica and do your thing. Eventually, you did have some Rastafarians go over to Ethiopia, and they have land over there. As I've met a couple of Ethiopians that have told me about it. But yeah, we do have people that are egotistical and they'll do this. They will do this and use it for what they want. And that's why I like science fiction, because it shows how flawed humans are and how we are flawed. So, but, like I said, I will get into other science fiction books. As many as I can. I'm probably going to reread all the, I Octavia Butler books. Like I said, I've read all of them except for Kindred, and I read about half of that, but I'm gonna go ahead and do that, you know, all the and other science fiction books. And then this guy, Zelazny, his Amber Chronicles, I'm gonna look into that. Even though it's 10 books, there is a omnibus collection of it, and I believe it's about 1,200 pages. And I've read omnibus stuff of about 800, 900. You know, I've done that for like Richard Wright. I've done that for Octavia Butler. I actually read the individual books in her series. There's like about 3 series, and like the first 2, it was like a 5-book series. I read those individually. Then I read the omnibus collection, and then the next series, I'm forgetting what the name of the series is, but it was about 3 books, and they combined together, and I reread it. So I've actually reread her stuff, so I should probably do her stuff next. But yeah, this guy, I'm probably going to read the Amber Chronicles. There's a short story collection of his. I'm probably going to read that. He is so good. I don't know how I missed this guy, but science fiction is not, it's not valued. It's seen as like kind of like a ghetto and stuff, kind of like weird or nerdy and stuff. But this dude is something. So read him. This is going to encourage me to get up also into Philip K. Dick. Like I said, not only his do androids dream of electric sleep, whatever, Blade Runner. There's also other stuff that he's talked about, like the movie that was based on Hitler winning the World War. I want to read that. Man in the High Castle. And there's tons of other stuff I want to read. But basically, if you're science fiction, you like, you know, it's telling the same old story, but a different premise in a different way. I highly recommend it. This book, I also recommend. Forget all the naysayers talking about how difficult it is. It's not difficult at all. Any of the references, you can Google them real quick. The book is not long. It's about 296 pages. Yeah, so give it a try and stuff. And I'm going to get back and, do another review for a book. I have a lot of books I've read and haven't done the video for, but I'm gonna get to that. Also a couple videos coming up. So, but right now, hey, not only do I recommend science fiction, I recommend Roger Zelazny, his stuff, and especially Lord of Light. If you want something different, recommend it. All right.